videos or not. But when we go back to like the Iliad, for example, the Greek, everyone knows there's, two Homeric poems. The Iliad is the first one. The Odyssey is the second. The Iliad, I guess, how many of you saw the movie Troy?
Brad Pitt?
Yeah. Terrible. It's so bad. I mean, Agamemnon dies in that movie, which would totally screw up Greek tragedy, because, so many of the famous Greek tragedies are a result of his returning to Greece after, the war. And, well, if he was dead, that wouldn't have happened, right? But in any case, the Iliad basically is focused on Achilles, right? Achilles literally means with the prefix a means not, and cles, right, is honor. So basically, Achilles or Achilles has no honor. He's been dissed. If you use that modern, right? And the reason he's been dissed is because Agamemnon, and you can look up Agamemnon, and my interpretation of Agamemnon means King No Balls. Because no gametes, right? Now, Wikipedia will tell you differently, but I'm looking at, the first two parts of his name, Agamemnon, right? Gamine, right? And so basically, I think it's the Greeks making fun of this idiot, who's the king, nonetheless, right? But they all go to Troy. They want to lay siege to Troy because Agamemnon's brother Menelaus has had his wife taken, stolen, kidnapped, Helen, right, by Paris, right? No relation to the city in France, except that I think that city was named in honor of that Paris, but I'm not sure.
I think the tribe, like the Parisi or something. That's what it was.
Could, just, me, but Agamemnon is the king and leads everyone there, and it's pretty clear though that Achilles, with his own tribe, are really the greatest warriors and the ones that are basically whooping butt, if you could say that there. And at one point in the ongoing siege, I mean, it's supposed to have lasted like 10 years, that they end up capturing. Pardon? 7 years? Long time. Not as long as Afghanistan, but, still 10 years, 7 years. But in any case, the one battle, they end up capturing a group of women, I suppose, and Agamemnon gets a prize, and Achilles gets a prize, Briseis of the fair cheeks, and frankly, we never find out which cheeks are fair, but just so you know. But so they each have their prize, and Agamemnon's prize is the daughter of the priest of the Trojans. And that priest comes furious and says, "The gods are angry with you because you've stolen our priestess, my daughter," right? And oh my goodness, you can't have the gods angry with you. So Agamemnon releases her and he loses his prize. And he's all upset now because, well, gee, he's the king and he doesn't have a prize. It's not fair, And Menelaus says to him, "Well, you're the king. Take whichever prize you like." So the doofus goes and takes the prize from the greatest warrior, Achilles, and takes Briseis. And of course, so Achilles at this point has become Achilles. Right? He's now been, no honor, because of what Agamemnon does, right? And then Achilles decides, well, I'm not fighting anymore. So there, and he goes and he sits down by the shark ships. I like that phrase. Sharp ships, those are pointy ships, So, and of course the Greeks start to lose at that point because he's the one that can really, whoop butt, as I've already said. And so, by the way, Brad Pitt was much too small for the role. Really, you think of Achilles as just this big brute, basically, that can just, beat the crap out of whoever he wants.
Doesn't Agamemnon burn their ships or something to?
I don't remember that part.
No.
But in any case, one of Achilles, his relative, cousin, and best friend, Patroclus, which is interesting because Patroclus, patria, country, please, the glory of the country. Patroclus, right? Cleopatra, by the way, is Patroclus in reverse. So, kind of interesting. But in any case, Patroclus comes to Achilles and says, well, if you won't fight, can I borrow your armor and I'll go out there disguised as you, and that should help the Greeks. And Achilles says, sure, why not? So Patroclus puts on this armor, which is way too big for him, and he kind of clunks out there looking like, But initially the Trojans are scared of him and run off, but as they run off, they realize, hey, wait a minute. That can't be Achilles. So they run back, and Achilles is killed. Patroclus is killed, which upsets Achilles to no end, of course. And so he does go back. And by the way, he needs new armor because he lost his armor. And so Athena comes to the rescue, and they have him completely decked out in new armor, and especially his shield, which is like the history of the world. If you And what's neat about that, you can't possibly imagine all the designs that were engraved on the shield, but as described in the story. And by the way, the reason I know this, I should quote my sources, was Professor Nagy from Harvard taught a course on the shield of Achilles, and that's where this is pretty neat. It comes from. I took the course online. It was one of the early versions of a MOG, however you say them, mass open course, whatever they're called. In any case, so Achilles, of course, gets back in to the battle, but he's dissed because of Agamemnon. Well, Achilles is their hero. And when I showed this ridiculous video, you could always look it up. It's Conan musical, right? Conan the Barbarian, the musical. And it's short, but it's hilarious. His primary virtue, or his what is good, if you've actually seen the movie, what is good? Killing the enemy and hearing, the screams of the women and children, right? Seeing them running before you, fleeing before you. That is good. That was the virtue of Achilles. That was the highest virtue of the Greeks as far as they were concerned at that stage in human development. And by the way, I suspect it's still the highest virtue in among societies that haven't gone past that societal stage, right? So you still find, people out there that think this way, that the one that they ought to honor in their society is the one who can brutally kill whoever they want and take whatever they want, etc. That's still a virtue in some places, believe it or not. Yes? But by the time we get to Plato, all of a sudden now we have virtues of wisdom. That's a virtue now, not something that you see in the Iliad or the Odyssey. Wisdom doesn't show up. Right? Odysseus, by the way, is a little bit intelligent, and that makes everyone suspicious of him because he is, right? So intelligence even is not especially valued. It's important, right? It comes up with the idea of the wooden horse, right? The Trojan horse, and so on. So he's the one that comes up with the ploy that enables the Greeks to win at the end, right? But it's suspicious. No one really trusts him because he's so smart. It's scary, right? But with Plato, you have wisdom as a virtue. You have temperance as a virtue. Achilles has no temperance whatsoever. Not a valuable virtue for the early Greeks in their stories, right? And you have, yes?
Didn't Achilles, though, ultimately go insane for the most part as a result of his bloodlust because he couldn't control it and desecrated the corpse of Hector? Was he punished by the gods with insanity?
And he dies. He gets shot in the ankle.
Well, yeah, but he also goes mad.
But he's young. I mean, even when he dies, he's.
Yeah,
I mean, but the thing is, he accomplished the goal, right? And that's what they valued him for. They don't care about the after. It's that he was a big enough brute to do what he wanted to do. Possibly he goes mad, yes. I'm not sure what that would mean then. It seems to me that they're all mad, actually, at this point. I don't know what you mean by mad in that kind of a context.
He said he was like cursed by the gods to be mad.
Well, the gods are fighting one another. There's gods on both sides.
Yeah.
So it's not like a monotheism. The gods are after one another too. And remember, all these individuals are still thinking that the thoughts they're having in their head are coming from gods, not their own thinking. So it's not a surprise for us to find two societies, both of whom think they're in communication with the gods, but that are in a fight with one another, because what we would, well, in our own history, what we see is the concept of God evolves to become more and more complex in a way, right? But so we have virtues that are present by the time we get to Plato, but they're clearly not there perhaps 1,000 years before. So where did they come from? How did this happen? I want to talk a little bit about, let's see, where do I want to go here? Some of this we already covered this a little bit. What are the three? Why do we study philosophy? We're studying how we got to be how we are today, in a sense, right? So, who am I? What is my place in the universe? How do I maintain that place? Those are the three main questions I learned from Peter Berger in his sociology of knowledge theories. So we need to know who we are, what my place is in the universe, and how I maintain that place. And we can view that through a narrative, right? And we'll follow a tradition. When we go back and look at the Greeks, why do we even consider the Greeks the significant point in this? Well, the first philosopher is called Thales of Miletus. Why? Why was he considered the first philosopher? Well, he tries to answer the question of what the arche. The arche is the word where we get arch, architecture, archaeology, all those kinds of words, right? So it's basically the building block or the keystone, maybe, right, in the arch. If you think about it, what is the basic principle of the universe? Why is everything here? And the thing is,